Recently, I did something that many of you are preparing for or maybe even dreading. I sat the official IELTS test, including the speaking exam. And when the results came in, I got this, a perfect band 9 in speaking. Now, if you want to achieve a high score just like I did, then I want to share with you today the exact blueprint for doing so. Hi, I'm Matt from SpeakPrac, and welcome to the Ultimate IELTS English Speaking Course. In this video, we'll talk all about the IELTS speaking criteria. We'll discuss what the criteria mean and what examiners are truly listening for so that you can showcase your English speaking skills effectively. Plus, I'll also share how you can quickly estimate your IELTS band score based on that marking criteria. As you continue your IELTS journey, remember that this video is part of the Ultimate IELTS English Speaking Course, and it's completely free. The Course Hub page for this is at speakprac.com/IELTS Speaking Course. There you'll find the course structure, video lessons, as well as other resources that can help you. Check out the link in the description below as well as on screen right now. So, why is understanding the IELTS speaking marking criteria so incredibly important? Imagine you're playing a game, but you don't know the rules. How can you win? It's the same with IELTS. If you don't know how you're being scored, you're essentially flying blind. Knowing the criteria helps you focus your practice on what truly matters, saving you time and boosting your confidence. The IELTS speaking examiners use 4 criteria to assess your speaking, and each one is worth 25% of your total speaking score. Now, think of them as the 4 wheels of a car. You need all of them rolling smoothly to reach your destination, which is your target band score. And in my case, I fortunately and so happily achieved a band 9 in all of those 4 key criteria, which then helped contribute to that overall band 9 speaking score. Now you might ask, what are these big 4 pillars of IELTS speaking? They are 1. Fluency and coherence, 2. Pronunciation, 3. Lexical resource, which is just a fancy term for vocabulary, 4. Grammatical range and accuracy, which pretty much covers grammar. Now, when you see that list, it can feel intimidating. I get it. But this is the single most important moment to remember our core belief here at SpeakPrac, and it's one that I truly believe as well. Anyone can speak English. And that includes you too, my friend. These 4 criteria are not a wall to stop you. They are a roadmap to guide you. Understanding them is how you unlock your potential. So let's break them down one by one. Fluency and coherence, the art of smooth and sensible talk. First up, fluency and coherence. This sounds like 2 things, and it kind of is, but they're deeply connected. Now, what does it really mean in plain English? Fluency is all about how smoothly, continuously, and naturally you speak. It's not about speaking super fast. Think of a flowing river. That's good fluency. A river that's constantly stopping, starting, or getting blocked by rocks, that's what poor fluency sounds like. Too many unnatural pauses, hesitations like all the time, or self-corrections that break the flow. Coherence is all about how logical and easy to follow your ideas are. Are you answering the questions directly? Do your ideas connect clearly? Think of it like building with toy blocks. Each piece, which are your ideas, should connect neatly to the next to create a solid structure. If your ideas are all over the place, your block tower will wobble and fall. The examiner's checklist, what they're listening for. Speaking at a natural pace. You shouldn't speak too fast nor too slow. Just a comfortable rhythm. Keeping hesitations natural. Of course, everyone hesitates a bit, even native speakers. But it's unnatural or excessive hesitation that can be the problem, especially if it's because you're searching for words or grammar. Developing your answers. Don't just give one-word answers. Extend your responses, explain your points, and give examples. The length will vary by the IELTS speaking part, of course, but always aim to say enough. Using linking words and phrases, which are cohesive devices, naturally. Words like however, so, because, another reason is, can all help to guide the listener. But don't overdo it or use overly formal ones that sound out of place in conversation. This is key for the IELTS speaking criteria. Common pitfalls where test takers go wrong. Overthinking answers. It can be a problem when you try to come up with the perfect answer because it can lead to long pauses and can kill fluency. Remember that it's a speaking test, not an ideas test. Stopping too early in part 2. Remember, you need to keep talking for the full 2 minutes of the IELTS speaking part 2, or until the examiner stops you. Now here's another problem. Repeating the same ideas or phrases constantly. When you do this, this shows a lack of development and can affect coherence. Not actually answering the question asked. Now this is a big one for coherence. You need to listen carefully and make sure you answer the exact question that was asked of you. Bridging the gap. Band 7 to Band 8 insights. So what does this actually sound like in the IELTS speaking test? Let's make this concrete. Imagine the examiner asks you, why do you think traveling is important? Listen to this response. This is a typical Band 7 answer for fluency and coherence. I think traveling is important because it helps people to learn about other cultures. And also another thing is that people can relax when they go on holiday. Did you hear that? The speaker here answers the question and connects their ideas, sure. But there's noticeable hesitation to find words when they use fillers like and are. And the linking words are a bit basic and repetitive, like because and also. It gets the job done, but it's not seamless. Now let's hear how a Band 8 candidate might tackle the same question. Well, I believe traveling plays a vital role in broadening our perspectives. For one thing, it exposes us to cultures and traditions vastly different from our own. On top of that, it provides a fantastic opportunity to simply unwind and recharge, which is something we all need in our fast-paced lives. Can you see the difference? The flow is much smoother. Any slight pause is to structure the thought, not to search for the language. The cohesive devices are more flexible and sophisticated, like, for one thing. On top of that, the ideas are connected logically and developed with ease. And that's the leap from a Band 7 to a Band 8 plus. Pronunciation. Speaking clearly and naturally. Next up, pronunciation. This is about how clear and understandable your speech is. What it really means in plain English. When it comes to pronunciation in the IELTS speaking test, it's not about having a perfect British, Australian, or North American accent. Of course, if you've mastered any of these accents, then this can help, but make sure you're consistent with your accent. And please don't try to fake an accent. It often sounds unnatural and can even make you harder to understand. Pronunciation is all about clarity. Can the examiner understand your words easily without straining? This means producing individual sounds correctly. Word stress. Emphasizing the right syllable in a word. For example, photograph versus photograph. Sentence stress. Emphasizing key words in a sentence to convey meaning. Intonation. The music of your voice. How it rises and falls to show meaning, emotion, or to distinguish questions from statements. A flat, robotic intonation is really hard to listen to. Connected speech. How sounds link together smoothly between words. For example, I want to can sound like I wanna. The examiner's checklist. What they're listening for. Overall intelligibility. The IELTS speaking examiners ask themselves, can they understand you easily throughout the test? Accurate production of individual sounds. Are your sounds clear? Your and sounds distinguishable? For example, do you clearly say the word that rather than tat, dat, or even fat? When you pronounce right and light, are you pronouncing them correctly and not getting them mixed up? Appropriate use of stress and intonation. The examiners also check, does your speech have a natural rhythm and melody? Plus, IELTS speaking examiners also want to hear features of connected speech that make you sound more natural and less stilted. Common pitfalls where test takers go wrong. L1 interference, or when your native language gets in the way of you speaking English. Features of your native language can sometimes make some English sounds difficult. For example, if you mix up V and W, V and W, you may be pronouncing it like this. I wonder what the time is instead of I wonder. Or you might mix up P and B, the sounds P and B. So you have trouble saying the difference between pill and bill. Speaking too flatly or in a monotone way. Remember that a lack of intonation makes you sound uninterested and can be hard to follow. Another problem can be over-enunciating every single word. This is when you overpronounce each word, and it can sound unnatural and break the flow, which hinders connected speech. Mispronouncing common words is also another big problem. When you say frequently used words in the incorrect way, then examiners won't be able to understand you, and it can be a problem because you repeat those words so many times. Bridging the gap. Band 7 to Band 8 insights. Let's put this to the test. Remember, it's not about the accent, it's about clarity. Imagine a candidate is trying to say the sentence, I think the third reason is really important. A Band 7 candidate is generally understandable, but some sounds might take the listener a tiny bit of extra effort to understand. Their intonation might also be a little flat, and it might sound something like this. I think the third reason is really important. You can understand the message here, but the th sounds are produced as t and d, which is a common issue. If you make these kinds of mispronunciations, then it may require a little bit of work from the listener. Now listen to a Band 8 candidate. They have much better control over individual sounds as well as the music of the language, the stress and intonation. I think the third reason is really important. Can you hear that? The sounds are precise, but more than that, did you notice the stress on third and really? That's sentence stress. It adds meaning and makes the speech sound natural and engaging. That control over the finer features of pronunciation is what separates a Band 7 from a Band 8 plus. Lexical Resource or vocabulary, your word powerhouse. Alright, let's talk about Lexical Resource or as we all know it, vocabulary. This is about the words you use and how well you use them. What it really means in plain English. Now, lexical resource, or your vocabulary, is not just about using big or difficult words. It's about range. Can you use a variety of words appropriate to different topics? Think of it like a painter's palette. Do you have many colors to choose from or just a few? Precision. Are you using the right word for the meaning you want to express? Appropriacy. Is the word that you're using suitable for the context? For instance, you don't want words to be too formal in a casual chat, and you don't want to be too slangy, which means you don't want to use too many slang words. Collocations. Do you use words that naturally go together? For example, make a mistake rather than using do a mistake. Heavy rain is another correct collocation, but big rain is certainly not natural sounding. Idiomatic language. Using phrases or expressions naturally like a native speaker might. For example, you could say, oh, it costs an arm and a leg, or oh, I'm over the moon. But be careful with these idioms because you want to make sure that you're using them in the right context. The examiner's checklist, what they're listening for. Topic-specific vocabulary. If you're talking about the environment, can you use words like pollution, conservation, renewable energy? This shows your range. Using less common words accurately. This doesn't mean using obscure or strange words, but words beyond basic vocabulary. Paraphrasing effectively. If you can't think of a specific word, can you explain it using other words? Now, this is a great skill. Accuracy in word choice and form. The examiners will check whether you've used the correct noun, verb, adjective form, and meaning as you speak. Common pitfalls where test takers go wrong. Trying to force in impressive words. This often backfires. If you misuse a complex word where you use the wrong meaning, the wrong collocation, or you mispronounce it, then it's much worse than using a simpler word correctly. This is a frequent mistake when students misunderstand the speaking IELTS criteria. Overusing idioms or using them incorrectly. A few well-paced natural idioms are great, but stuffing them into every sentence or getting them wrong sounds very unnatural. Repeating the same simple words over and over. If you only say good, nice, bad for giving your opinion on various topics, then it shows a limited range of vocabulary. Bridging the gap. Band 7 to Band 8 insights. Let's look at an example. The examiner asks, what do you find satisfying about your work? A Band 7 candidate might rely more on common words and make the occasional small error in word choice. For instance, I like my job because I can help people. It's a very good feeling when I solve a customer's problem. Also, my work is interesting and the people I work with are very nice. Now, this is a solid answer. The meaning is clear, but notice the vocabulary. Help people, good feeling, interesting, nice. They're words that do describe the speaker's point of view, but they're very common words. A Band 8 candidate, however, will use more precise and less common vocabulary to express a more nuanced meaning. Now listen to this. For me, the most fulfilling aspect of my work is the tangible impact it has. There's a real sense of accomplishment when you collaborate with a team to resolve a complex issue for a client. That collaborative and supportive environment is truly invaluable. Wow. Did you hear the difference in word power? Instead of good feeling, they say fulfilling aspect and sense of accomplishment. Instead of nice people, they talked about a collaborative and supportive environment. They are using precise, less common, and more impactful words. That's the key to a band 8 or more in Lexical Resource or vocabulary. Grammatical range and accuracy. Building strong sentences. Last, but definitely not least, grammar, specifically grammatical range and accuracy. It's another two-parter. What it really means in plain English. Range. This is about using a variety of sentence structures, not just simple sentences. The examiner will check, can you use complex sentences? Sentences with multiple clauses like using although, because, which. Can you use different tenses correctly? Think of it like a musician who can play many different chords and melodies, not just a few basic notes. Accuracy. This is about how correctly you use those grammatical structures. Are your sentences free of errors, or are there frequent mistakes that make it hard to understand you? The aim is to have a high proportion of error-free sentences. The examiner's checklist. What they're listening for. Using a mix of simple and complex sentence structures. You don't need every sentence to be super complex, but you need to show that you can use them. Accurate use of tenses. Can you talk about the past, the present, and future correctly based on the questions? Can you even talk about hypothetical or made-up situations? Control over grammar. The examiner wants to make sure that you make few grammar errors, especially very basic ones. For example, they want to check your subject-verb agreement, your articles, and your prepositions. The examiner is listening to see if your grammar helps or hinders communication. Common pitfalls, where test takers go wrong. Making too many basic grammar errors. Mistakes with simple tenses, plurals, or articles can really pull your score down. Only using simple sentences is another problem. If you say something like, I like dogs. Dogs are friendly. I have a dog. This shows a limited range of grammar. Trying to use overly complex grammar that you haven't mastered. This often leads to more errors and confusion, which is counterproductive for the IELTS speaking marking criteria. Systematic errors. These are mistakes you make repeatedly, often influenced by your first or native language. For instance, you might always miss your articles if your L1 or your native language doesn't use them. Bridging the gap. Band 7 to Band 8 insights. Let's demonstrate this with a final example. Imagine the question is, how has your hometown changed over the last 10 years? A Band 7 candidate will show they can use complex sentences, but they might make a few grammatical mistakes that don't block communication. Listen to this. My hometown changed a lot. They have built many new apartments. Although the new buildings are modern, but I feel it has lost some of its old character. Also, there is more cars now. Okay, so we see a good attempt at a complex sentence with although. But there's a common mistake here. You don't use but after although. There are also some small errors like there is more cars instead of there are more cars. The grammar here is understandable, but it's not perfect. Now listen to how a Band 8 candidate might respond using a wider range of structures with greater accuracy. My hometown has undergone a significant transformation. One of the most noticeable changes has been the rapid construction of high-rise apartments, which has completely altered the skyline. While these developments have brought in more residents, a consequence has been that the infrastructure is now struggling to keep up. The difference, as you can hear, is control and variety. This response uses the present perfect, has undergone, as well as a relative clause, which has completely altered. And there's even a complex sentence starting with while. The sentences for the Band 8 response are almost all error-free. That level of accuracy and flexible use of different structures is what examiners are listening for in a Band 8 plus performance. Okay, we've just unpacked the 4 pillars: fluency and coherence, pronunciation, lexical resource, and grammar. You now have the examiner's playbook. But theory is one thing. The real question is, where do you stand right now? You might have a number in your head. You might think you're a Band 6 or maybe a 7.5, but is that just a guess? To truly improve, we need a data-driven baseline. So for the next few minutes, we're going to do something incredibly practical. We're going to find out what is your current IELTS speaking band score. And we're going to use the SpeakPrac app to do it. The SpeakPrac app has a feature that I call the Instant Band Score Estimator. It's more than just an IELTS speaking score calculator. And what it does is it analyzes your speech against the very criteria we just discussed to give you a detailed breakdown of your performance. Now, before we jump in, I want to share a powerful methodology that you can use with the app. It's called the Power of 3. There's fascinating research in applied linguistics, particularly from researchers like Bowers and DeConnick, that shows massive fluency gains when learners repeat a speaking task 3 times. Not only that, by doing it 3 times, you can get a clearer picture of the average IELTS speaking band score you can potentially get. The first time you speak, your brain is working hard just to find the words and structure. The second time, after getting feedback, you start making conscious improvements. But that third time, now that's where the magic happens. The new vocabulary, the smoother connections, they start to become automatic. You're moving from conscious effort to subconscious skill. So let's put this power of 3 to the test. Grab your phone, open SpeakPrac, and do this along with me. Or just follow along for now and see how it works. Alright, I'm in the app. I'm going to pick an IELTS Part 1 question. Let's go with this one. Are there any hobbies that you find relaxing? I'm going to give my first response now. I'll try to answer it, but I'll make a few common mistakes deliberately, like some hesitation and the use of simple vocabulary, so we can see what a typical Band 6 response looks like. Yes, I have some hobbies that are relaxing. I like to read books because it helps me to forget about my problems. Also, I sometimes do gardening. It is nice to work with plants and flowers. These hobbies make me feel good. Okay, the SpeakPrac app gets to work. It analyzes your speech and the analysis is instant. And here we are. The app has given me an estimated IELTS Band 6. But this is the crucial part. You're not just given an IELTS band number. The SpeakPrac app also gives you the why. Let's check out the details. Look at this. The app breaks down my performance based on my key speaking fluency metrics. Words per minute, or WPM. As you can see, mine was a bit low, which the SpeakPrac app flags as affecting fluency. Pauses per 100 words, or PHW. As you can see, I had a few too many unnatural pauses, likely where I said and ah. Average pause duration, APD. As you can see, my pauses were a little long there, which broke the flow. And here is the absolute game changer. The AI gives a justification for the IELTS band score, explaining why it's a 6.0. And then it provides 3 actionable speaking tips to focus on. This becomes my roadmap. The SpeakPrac app has told me exactly what to do to improve. So for my second attempt, I'm going to focus on using better linking words and trying to reduce those long pauses. I'll also try and enhance my vocab and grammar. Now, in order to do a second attempt, you can actually just use the big speak button right there in the bottom menu. I have several hobbies that I find incredibly relaxing. For instance, reading is something I turn to when I need to unwind after a stressful day. What I particularly enjoy about it is how it allows me to escape into different worlds. What's more, I'm quite passionate about gardening, which I find therapeutic because there's something deeply satisfying about nurturing plants and watching them grow. And let's see. Wow! Just by focusing on improving my speaking based on the SpeakPrac feedback, my score has jumped to an IELTS band 7.5. And you can see the metrics reflect the improvement. My words per minute is up and my pauses are down. This is the power of targeted practice. Now for the final step, the third repetition. This is where we lock in the learning. Again, you can press the big speak button to start speaking. Without a doubt, I have a couple of hobbies that serve as my go-to stress relievers. Mainly, I'm drawn to reading because it provides an immediate mental escape. I can literally lose myself in a compelling narrative and forget about daily pressures. Secondly, I've developed a genuine love for gardening, which I find profoundly meditative. There's something almost therapeutic about the rhythm of planting, watering, and tending to plants. Okay, now for the final result. Bam! There you go. Band 8.5. Look at that progression. From a 6 to a 7.5 and now an IELTS speaking band score of 8.5 simply by understanding the criteria, getting a baseline, and applying targeted feedback. That is the power of 3 in action. We didn't just practice, we practiced with purpose. The app gave us the data and the direction, turning a frustrating process into a clear step-by-step path to improvement. So now it's your turn. I want you to open SpeakPrac, find that same question or try another question and try the power of 3 method for yourself. See what your baseline score is and watch how it improves. You can download the app at the link in the description. So now you have the examiner's secret playbook. You know what those examiners are listening for in terms of fluency, pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar. Now this isn't just theory. I put this into practice myself. Now you know the framework of how examiners exactly think, and you can use that to your advantage to get yourself a high band score too. This is what helped me get that band 9 in speaking. So it's proven, it's effective, and it's a key that can unlock your highest potential. Remember, this video is just one piece of the full course, the Ultimate IELTS English Speaking Course. You can check out all the lessons and other resources at speakprac.com/IELTS Speaking Course. But knowing the speaking IELTS criteria is one thing. Knowing how to start the IELTS speaking test is another thing. And how you handle those first few moments or even seconds with your IELTS speaking examiner can set the whole tone for your speaking test. And that's what we'll talk about in our next video. There, I'll show you how you can master IELTS speaking part 1. So you go into that speaking test room with much more confidence. You won't want to miss that video.